everyone, and welcome to More Than Medals by Crossing the Line. Today we're going to be speaking with Trinity Lowthian, who's a Canadian athlete and a wheelchair fencer. To be honest, I didn't know much about wheelchair fencing before speaking with Trinity, so I'm so excited for you guys to learn more about this sport and her journey to Paris 2024. Today we'll be speaking with Trinity Lowthian, who is Canada's most successful Canadian wheelchair fencing athlete from the Paris 2024 Paralympic Games. Her performance in Paris 2024 perhaps came as a bit of a surprise, given that she's only been fencing since 2022 when she competed in the Games. Trinity was eliminated the second and the third seed athletes to place an impressive fifth place in the Paralympic Games, which is pretty incredible for a Paralympic debut. Trinity, so nice of you to be on the podcast. I'm really excited to talk with you today.
Me too. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Maybe we can start off by talking about your experience in the Games. I know I saw an interview of you following your competition and following your performance. And the thing that struck me about it is just the joy in that interview. And I would encourage people to check out Trinity's Instagram and watch this interview. She just is exuding this joy and this love of the sport and this energy that makes me be like, oh yeah, para sport is the best. How did that feel?
Yeah, it was really interesting, actually, the way that interview was done right after I was eliminated and just lost a match. And so there was a part of me that was fighting back tears because obviously I wanted to go further. But then after each match, how it was in Paris, you'd do a loop of the venue and be able to see everyone in the stands and the crowds, and I was just loving that and soaking in the moment to see everybody, see my family and all the supporters who were there, and I was just buzzing. I'm literally shaking in that interview so much. I have so much energy that I could not contain.
I love it.
Yeah, I think it really personifies just how happy I was, and my friends back home were even I've never seen you this happy before. This is a totally different side, so it was great.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I also think it's so important to have you talk about what the experience is like in sport. I think for every person, every medal at the Games, every position in the Games, unless you win, and even sometimes then, there's something that you're a little disappointed about maybe in your performance, or there's always kind of two sides to every performance. And obviously in the moment, you want to be appreciative and soak it in. And I'm really glad that you got the opportunity to do that. But I can see how complicated it must have been feeling that in your sport, you end, unless you win, with a loss, right? That's the end, is that you go into a match with two people and one of them doesn't win. And unless you're the ultimate winner of the entire thing, you end on a loss. That must be how do you prepare for that mentally? That's tough.
I honestly think I learned so much going into the Games. And so in wheelchair fencing, there's 3 different events, 3 different weapons. And so for me, épée is really the only thing I train in. But I also qualified for the Games in saber, and for the schedule, I had saber as my first competition, and then a few days later, it was épée. So I went into saber day not having done any lessons, having literally 0 expectations. Me and my coach, we had planned that it was just my day to have fun, get used to the environment, soak it all in, and I lost both my matches, but there were no hard feelings there. Actually, in both the matches, I had equipment difficulties, so I had a 10-minute break in between each. And I was just smiling, soaking it all in. They were like, what is this girl doing? Everyone else here is so serious. But I honestly didn't care. And I lost both matches, but it was honestly the best day of my life. I had so much fun. And so after that day, I kind of realized win or lose, I could still be happy regardless of the outcome. And B, the next day, you wake up and it's exactly the same. If you have a medal, there might be a bit more media, things might be a bit busier the next day, but other than that, literally nothing changes. And so then for me to go into épée day, which the stakes felt a bit higher for me, but I really didn't have anything again, things. The thing about the Games I found too is every competition leading up to it, you want to do well because you want to qualify for Paris. You wanted to qualify for the Paralympics. When I got to Paris, it's really the result does not matter anymore.
I made it here.
yeah, like this was the goal. I made it here. If I win this, sure, there might be a bit more media. I'll get a medal, I'll get whatever, but literally nothing changes. It's not really going to open up anything else for me. So I took the opportunity to have fun and just, I think like without any of the pressure and just knowing that the result wasn't the thing that I hung my worth on, it really made me have so much more fun on the épée day, and I think definitely led to me having such a good result.
Yeah, I think like two of the things that you said there so thoroughly resonated with me. And I literally had said that exact same thing to people before the games because I was nervous and I did want a medal and I wanted certain performances like yourself. And I remember saying to people, like, if I won, my life would still be the same. Like, I'm still going to come home and go to work on Monday, like it would be very cool and it would be very nice. But it's more about you and the day and the performance and what you want out of the games than it is about like the result or what you come home with or what will happen to you after. And I think for me, that really gave me a lot of confidence in that what I wanted out of parasport was really, I think, the camaraderie and the friendship and the community. And being a Paralympian means so much to so many people, and I think to both of us. But for sure, the value in sport for me was the connections more than anything else. So I love to hear other people say they had that similar experience. And I personally think that that translates to better performances, which I think you really demonstrated with an incredible performance. I personally think.
No, I completely agree. And I even said like before, I find the camaraderie at the games, everyone in the fencing world is a bit more like on edge. It's a bit less jokey, laughy. Me and my coach were the only ones like, having a blast, it seemed. But I find like even the competitions beforehand, the qualifying, World Cups, etc., I found that just connecting with a group of people in parasport, I was like, for me, that was better than rehab. I'm like, I learned so much, like not only like the physical skills, like way better than any OT, no offense, but like being so new to being disabled, it was like amazing for me to have this opportunity. That the camaraderie was what made it like so special compared to like the able-bodied sports before that I competed in.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's so special. I love that you had that experience, and I think it's so nice. And you can really hear it in that interview. I think it's just the joy and the connection, and that it was it was about more to you than medals, which is literally the theme of our podcast. So I think that's super cool. Um, can we talk a little bit about your life kind of growing up? I think it's really interesting to understand what kind of kids athletes were and what kind of led them into elite sport because it's quite unique.
Yeah, so for me, I was able-bodied up until fairly recently, and so was a pretty competitive athlete when I was younger, like did biathlon, triathlons, and water polo were like my main sports. But
amazing.
Yeah, my dad was a triathlete, so then I kind of got into it and really loved that. And all throughout like my birthday parties as a kid, they were all Olympic themed.
Oh my gosh, that's really so
cute.
Cool.
Yeah, so I have all my like cakes with like the Olympic rings or like ice cream cone torches. And instead of asking for gifts, I would collect donations like for the Canadian Olympic Committee and teams and everything.
My gosh. And I literally have goosebumps from you saying that. That is so sweet.
Like I was that kid who was so Olympics obsessed, and I was never at like an elite level in sport or like wanted to get to that level, but I just loved it so much. And so had such a love for sport, and I think that just really sums up like who I was as a kid.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so wonderful. That must be so surreal for you and your parents. Like, I bet your parents are just like, this is so full circle that she would then go on to be one of those athletes for Team Canada. That's so cool. Can you tell us a little bit then about how you acquired your impairment and what it is and kind of what it means to you in your daily life?
It's kind of like a weird gray zone for me, but I, in high school, got pretty sick with like lots of GI issues. I wasn't really able to eat, so had feeding tubes, etc. Was really not in school for high school and was in the hospital instead. And then once I turned 18 and switched to the adult hospital, the doctors there finally started digging for more answers, and we started a treatment called IVIG, which is a like blood product essentially. And I got meningitis from the treatment, like as a side effect. And after the first meningitis, I lost a bit of function. Like I could still get around. Like I got a wheelchair for like long distances, but inside the house I could still kind of manage like holding onto walls and things.
Okay.
And then
so meningitis is an infection in your brain and or spinal cord, right?
Yeah.
And so you lost function because there was like central nervous system damage? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Like essentially, to get into it, it's like upper motor neuron damage, whatever. And then flash forward like a year later, I had meningitis again. And
I cannot catch a break.
Yeah. So it was after the second time that I lost considerably more function and got to the point where I'm at now, like as a full-time wheelchair user. And things are still like kind of not exactly at a stable point, but it's definitely been interesting and a lot of challenges where, of course, I get the worst side effects from things.
Yeah, that's super complicated. I can imagine, and by all means, correct me if I'm wrong, but I can imagine how difficult it would be to go through something like that a second time. Like, the first time you deal with it and you recover and you get to this point where you're like, okay, the new normal is maybe okay. And then having to deal with it a second time, sort of starting from scratch. Maybe I can't imagine how that would feel, but that seems really challenging.
Yeah, especially like after the first time we ended up restarting the IVIG treatment, but like at a lower dose with steroids, everything. And I was totally fine on it for a year. So thought that like we were in the clear, things were going well. And then just randomly, like after a random dose, it happened because I guess with the blood products, it depends who the donors are maybe, but safe to say I'm not doing that treatment anymore, but it was definitely like really frustrating. Yeah. And still is frustrating, to be honest.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. And I feel like part of the frustration too is like a lack of clarity, I would imagine. Like I feel like in some ways my injury is uncomplicated and that you can anatomically understand it, you can almost see it. And that is what it is. It's fairly simple in that sense. And I can imagine how frustrating it would be to be dealing with sort of different problems on an ongoing basis. How do you deal with that? Like, do you talk to friends? Do you see a psychologist? Like how do you deal? How do you unpack it?
Lots and lots of therapy. Love therapy, highly recommend. And I also journal a lot, which I'm a big fan of. And then talking to friends, especially like people who, even though it's a pretty unique situation, but people who get it to the best of their extent and who kind of have known me through it all is what really helps. And I find the loss of mobility was one thing, but then there's all the other things that like come with the spinal cord injury type process. And on top of that, I still can't eat and I'm fed intravenously. So it's just like a lot on top of a lot, which can get a bit hard to manage.
And so kind of on a daily basis, do you find that your days are like you wake up and you're kind of like, what is it today? Like, how am I feeling today? How's my body behaving today? Or is there a bit more stability kind of day to day? Like, how do you wake up in the morning? How do you feel?
Yeah, I feel like it always varies. Like leading up to the games and training, my coach was like super understanding always, and we really focused on like quality of training rather than, the quantity or volume and things like that. And then after the games, I actually ended up hospitalized for like 7 weeks, coming back from Paris just with like physical complications of everything. And so since then, it's been a lot of like up and down and just kind of taking it day by day.
It must be hard to then balance, like already it's hard to balance an athlete's training volume, even a completely able-bodied athlete. It's complicated. Like humans are complicated. You don't get to coach them like robots and expect that they're always going to react the same to the same training volume and things like that. So it must take a really in tune coach and a really in tune athlete to be able to describe like what training volume makes sense at this time and how do we adjust when it doesn't make sense anymore. How do you communicate that with your coach?
It was definitely a bit of trial and error because I'm not really somebody who, like, I'm a big, like, fake it till you make it, like, whatever, I'm doing fine,
Me
I'm
too.
doing
I'm bad for
fine.
that.
Yeah, like,
And you're
don't
like, I'm
ask
not
what I'm
really that
doing.
fine, but I'm kind of fine, and I don't really want them to change my training. Like, I'll do that. I'll see like a bike in my schedule and be like, I don't know if I'm going to survive that, but I really want to. It's not
Yeah, like,
good.
I'll tell them I'll do it, but it might be iffy.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so he's gotten to know me a bit better, and like, I still live with my mom, and so my coach, my mom, sometimes will be like, "Okay, well, really, what's Trinity at?" Like,
I
because
think my
I'm not the
husband is
best
like
with
the
that.
lead to my coaching staff too. Like they'll kind of look at him and be like, what do you mean by that? That's
Yeah,
funny.
so it's, yeah, up and
It's
down,
not
and
easy. Yeah.
especially, yeah, like, and nutrition wise for me too, because
Yeah, that's a
again,
point.
like, I can't eat, so my nutrition's the pretty much like exact same every day. So regardless of my training, regardless of competing, etc., like, it's still the exact same every day. So that causes some, like, limitations too.
Is it that it's not possible to change your nutrition, or that doctors like just don't? Because like for myself, like my diet drastically changes with my training volume, and I would think that that would be beneficial to you, but I maybe I'm totally naive. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. So essentially, like, for me, like, day to day, it's the exact same because for me, I'm in Ottawa. My nutrition gets compounded like at a pharmacy in Toronto and then
Wow.
gets sent in. And
And so
so,
it
like,
comes in like an
everything's
IV bag and you inject it into a port that's in your chest, is that
pretty
right?
much, yeah, like,
Wow.
I'm connected to a pump for like 12 hours a day for the nutrition. And so I can't change it that much. But now that it's kind of like the off season, it actually ended up being that, like, when I was competing, I was getting a lot of, like, nutrition, especially protein, and it caused me to go into liver failure in September. So we had to, like, drastically reduce things. So it's like a really hard balancing game of, like, the athlete needs versus, like, what you can feasibly feed someone.
Yeah,
Like,
like what a body can
yeah.
tolerate.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's so interesting. Complicated though. It must be stressful. I feel like it's like kind of one of those mixes of like it's interesting, and I feel like maybe being in sport has pushed you to even further understand your body, and then it's also probably sometimes you're like, oh man, I wish I could just like eat an extra granola bar this day because my training volume's high and not deal.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm, like, just finishing up my bachelor's in nutrition. So
Oh wow,
having that
cool.
side of things has been, like, really interesting too, to kind of put things together, like the sports side with the medical side of nutrition.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Do you feel like in Canada, in the Canadian healthcare system, you get a lot of input? Because I think that you sound very smart and like you have a good understanding of your body and how to manage it. And so is that opinion respected, do you think?
I'm at a point now where, like, I am a bit more, I don't know if the right word is, like, respected for my, like, what I bring to the table kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I do think it's an interesting position where both sides of the table, like, if you look at, just say the nutrition piece, you go to a sports dietitian, they don't know anything about really the medical
Yeah.
nutrition, IV feeding part of things. I talked to my, like, hospital dietitian. She's not a sport dietitian. Like, so I'm kind of there, like, putting the pieces together, and I'm really thankful that I have a team that is so flexible and is like, what do you want to do? Like, we'll do it, or what do you think will work best? And kind of works from
Wow.
there.
That's super cool, but also a lot of pressure for a 22-year-old to be like managing school, sport, and then also these sort of advanced healthcare decisions that I'm sure maybe you have support from your family, but still it sounds like you do take a lot of the onus on, which is both really impressive and also probably really difficult.
It's definitely had some, like, fun stories come out of it that I wouldn't have expected otherwise.
Where you're like, it's cool that I learned this and it sucks that I had to.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably both. Did you find then, like, it sounds like your kind of teenage years and onward were quite different from maybe a typical experience. Do you feel like that made you grow up faster or like differently in some way? Like, do you think you came out of that different?
I was actually like just talking to one of my friends about this the other weekends about how I feel like I'm like my growth, like especially socially, was very stunted. Like to not go through the typical like social high school experience of like parties, like and
Yeah.
all of that kind of thing. Like I feel like I missed out on a lot, and friends wise was like really hard to keep friends in high school, but like have kind of moved on from then. That I think it's definitely like an interesting position where now like looking at my peers in university, I feel like I have a better understanding of lots of things, and even in sport, like I feel like I come to the table with a different perspective on things a lot of the time. That it's a weird position in some ways. I feel like I've grown up a lot faster, and in some ways I feel like I haven't. So
Yeah, I get that. And I think in a lot of ways, sport almost keeps people in that state as well, because a lot of the time people kind of, if you grow up in sport, especially in high performance sport, you're sort of protected from like the world at large, which like doesn't care if you're tired today. Like, you know, if you're going to work, you don't get to put in your like athlete tracking app, like, oh, I'm tired today, I'm not coming, or like, you know what I mean? And so I agree with you. I feel like there's a lot of things that like, you grow up a lot faster, and then a lot of ways that maybe because you've had to make changes and maybe have accommodations that I almost feel like everyone should have. Like I feel like everyone should be able to call in like, I'm not well today, just leave it alone, whether it's like mentally well or energy or whatever. But I feel like you've had to make those calls to protect your health, which I think makes you grow up a lot faster as well. It's so interesting.
mm-hmm.
You talked about socializing, and just to be completely transparent, I didn't go to a lot of parties in high school either. And I didn't have a disability. I was just a weird kid. So I didn't get invited a lot, I don't think. And I don't know if you really miss a lot. I feel like you come to a place where you're like, it's okay that I did it this way. And I do feel like maybe you're at this age too, where like when I was in my early 20s, I felt like the quality of my friendships was so different than what I had expected in high school, and what friends I had in high school who like my friends in high school were nice, but like you get this like sort of mature, like really close friendship, I think, as you get into your 20s and older. And I think there's something really cool about that. So in a lot of ways, I think you're getting the good parts and maybe missing some of the less good parts.
Exactly. Like knowing my introvert self, I'm like, I don't think I would have wanted like any of those things anyway. So
Would I have been thriving there?
Like it's for the best.
You do cause me to think of one of my more recent podcast episodes I did with Austin Smink, who is a wheelchair racer. I don't know if you know Austin. Yeah, cool. He's really nice. And he was talking about what it was like for him to date with a disability, which is not something that I personally experienced. I was injured in 2018, and I had been dating my husband now at the time for like 8 months. And so I didn't date as a newly disabled person, but I did have to like adapt to life as a wheelchair user in front of my like newish boyfriend. So some of those new experiences I had, and some of them I didn't. Like I never like met someone for a first date and had to decide like, do you tell them you're a wheelchair user, or like how do you, I don't know. I never made those decisions. Are you dating, or have you dated, and do you think it's different for you as a person with a disability than it would be otherwise?
Honestly, since like becoming a wheelchair user, I haven't like dated. My ex, like before. When I was still like sick, lots of hospital appointments, like still lots of issues. Like she was super supportive and everything, but I feel like now, like getting back into the dating scene, I'm like, I feel like I just have right now like so many other priorities that I'm just like really not interested.
Working on
like
you.
Yeah, like I don't know. I like to kind of be alone a bit right now. So
Yeah, that's totally reasonable. I'm just curious as to like how people navigate that and whether they think that's more complicated. But I also think it's such a cool choice to be like, I have a lot of big goals, I have a lot going on right now, and if that's not the time to add someone, I think that's a really mature decision. I think that's super cool too.
Yeah, I'm like, the fact that if I think like having a partner right now would be like a distraction or just like something I'm not interested in, like I think that means that like I'm okay right now. Like really don't need to.
Yeah, like when I think of you and already feel annoyed that I'm probably not looking. Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I get that. Being married is nice a lot of the time. And then sometimes you're like, man, I need to spend a lot of time worrying about you, and I don't always feel like it.
Yeah.
Or like cooking for my husband, like the way that he wants to eat is pretty different from the way that I would want to eat. So then you have to like fuse those, or like the way you want to spend your time, or what shows you want to watch. Like I don't personally want to watch a shoot 'em up, but now I have to. So I feel you. I feel you.
Yeah, it's a lot of compromise, and right now I'm not into that. Like,
and as an athlete, I do find that that is hard to do. Like I feel like you do have to have a partner if you want, or not have a partner who, whatever way you choose, that can understand that the life that you lead as an athlete sometimes is kind of selfish. Like for myself, this last year leading into Paris, I think I missed 6 weddings because I was traveling for sport, and they're like weddings I would want to go to, like friends that I would want to see their special day, and it felt bad, but you sort of have to make those choices. Like if I don't go to this race, I don't qualify for the games that I've trained for 6 years. But if I don't go to this wedding, well, that's kind of sad, and I'll always have missed that. So I do feel like there's value in not over promising yourself. And I feel like that's such a cool choice to make. Why fencing? How did you decide on fencing? Did you look into parasport, or did fencing find you? How did you end up here?
yeah, so like previously I was really into like endurance sports and like I don't want to say like painful sports, but like like that kind
I get
of
it.
thing where I was really into that. And then I was still like not physically like 100% ready to like go into that kind of thing again. I also wanted something that I thought I could succeed in. So I kind of made a very calculated decision and looked into like parasport in Canada and was like, basically no one does wheelchair fencing. It will be pretty easy to make the national team. So I like reached out to the fencing club in Ottawa and got started in like my very first practice. The coaches asked me, like, what's your goal? Like, are you here for fun? Like what? And I was like, I kind of want to go to the Paralympics.
Yeah, like I've been having parties to celebrate this since I was a child. Like I'm pretty confident as to why I'm here.
Yeah, like I chose the sport, whether I like it or not, but I think it'll be easy.
Do well, like there's an opportunity.
So, yeah.
That's really cool.
And I didn't realize that it was like, oh, there's a bit of a lack of like infrastructure and like funding and like resources and support at the national level for parafencing.
Right.
But hey, I did it. So yeah.
You made it happen. That's really cool. I think that, have you heard of RBC Training Ground? They do like athlete searches for able-bodied athletes, and they put athletes through a series of tests to kind of see like if they come from one sport, but maybe they're kind of plateaued in that sport or want to move on, what physically would you be really good at based on like your kind of physical characteristics? Like say you're a high jumper, and maybe you'd be good at like track cycling or something like that.
Everyone goes to track cycling from
RBC
Training Ground.
Yeah. It is true. Track cycling is like their big thing. And also like the winter ones, the like luge and skeleton and all the like plummet down this terrifying ice track sports, which I would be too scared to do, but I'm sure respect to those athletes because that is hard and terrifying. But I always think this should exist in para, that if you, especially because we're classified in para, and you're classified as well, and so in the process of classification, our disabilities are assessed, and we're sort of put into, I get a series of letters, and I think it's the same for you, that sort of say like this is the group that you belong with, and you compete against athletes with a similar impairment to you so that it's fair. And I always think that would be a really cool thing for someone like RBC Training Ground to do, is to meet these people like yourself who are interested in coming into parasport, and for you, like pretty dang clear that they want to go to the games, which is awesome, and already has so much of that competitive drive, which is hard to teach. and then put them into, these are the options of sports that we think based on your classification and your disability, you might really have success in. I think we would develop some really talented athletes that way and help people to find something where they might really feel that success versus, like you had said, I would love for you to do paratriathlon, but feeling like you wouldn't be competitive in it isn't really for you as a person who's really competitive.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like, I also did like paranordic skiing, and with my classification there, like, I hated it. Like, going from able-bodied skiing to paranordic, I was like, my body, like, this is not like where my function is at. Like, this is not something that I enjoy. This is not something I can be good at. Like,
did you sit ski?
Yeah, and I was just so pissed at like everything with it, that I was like, this doesn't work. But like, if you look at the classifications, like, they pretty much translate over. Like, paranordic fencing, it's pretty translatable, but I still really did not do well in that sport. And I find too, like, with the kind of talent identification, going based off of classification would be such a good idea. Like, even just looking at fencing, you could have someone in like my category B with this level of function or this level of function, but they perform differently and have different strengths. So it's a really interesting concept that you bring up.
I think it would be a cool start. And then obviously there would be huge factors of what are you interested in and what kind of work do you like to do? Like, I think someone who likes to do the kind of work that goes into a triathlon probably isn't necessarily someone who team sport is really a thing for. And so, yeah, I think that would be interesting to see. But fencing, have you thought about any other para sport? Are you continuing in fencing?
Yeah, so I'm continuing in fencing,
Love
basically. I'm planning to compete in Brazil in February, and I have not picked up any fencing related things since September. When I messaged my coach like that I wanted to do this competition in Brazil, he was like, okay, do you want to train before, or do you just want to like go and see what happens? I was like, it'd be kind of fun to go, but I do want to make sure that I could at least like hold an épée before kind of make that commitment to going. So we'll see what the next month holds for training. But in the lead up to the games, I also did some wheelchair rugby, which I really loved.
Such a fun sport.
Yeah, Paranordic's kind of off the table a bit right now. Yeah, but otherwise, I love just like trying different things and having the opportunities. The like frustrating thing though is the equipment, and it's like, oh, before, if I wanted to go for a run, I could just, go for a run. Wouldn't need anything substantial extra. Yeah. And like, you can obviously relate. Now it's like, okay, crap, now I gotta find a track, find a like racing chair, find etc.
Yeah.
And then, okay, make the commitment. And then where the heck do I store it? It's like so much piles up.
Yeah. And like for context, I think that's such a good comparison. The cost of running shoes is, I don't know, I haven't bought nice running shoes in a long time, but maybe $100 or a couple $100. But the cost of a racing wheelchair, like sort of an entry level one, is like $3,000 to $5,000. And so you're really looking at a totally different price point. And I think one of the challenges too is fit with these things. And so I have an extra racing chair, and if I gave it to you, maybe we're like not that far off. We might be able to pull this off, but very rarely would you find someone who would fit the same requirements, the same size, because they're made custom. So like my chair is made out of aluminum, and it's made to the specifications of like the literal width of my hip bone. And so then to expect that someone else might be able to fit in it and then also be at the same kind of angle to be comfortable in it is really not super likely. So you're looking at buying something new, getting it custom made, having no idea how you want it custom made because you've never tried it before. And then you might get in it and it might be like Paranordic where you're like, no thanks, like maybe this, I don't like this. And so, yeah, the barrier to entry in parasport is really high and it's really tough. And I think that's one of the things that keeps athletes from getting that experience. I think you have to be super motivated, like yourself as a kid wanting to go to the games to even enter and think about all of this. I recently had a really interesting meeting with a charitable organization who is interested in sort of presenting to the government the idea that they might offer additional support for people with disabilities, to help to cover the costs of their life and of their disabilities and the equipment that they need. And so that leads me to ask you, it sounds like we live in Canada, so we are fortunate in the sense that our basic healthcare needs are covered, but you can correct me on how accurate that is. But for a lot of the time, our mobility devices are not covered, or they're covered like really basic, but then we end up buying our own so that they're lighter and better functioning and fit us better. And so, do you want to speak to that, of like what the expenses have been like being disabled and dealing with chronic illness in Canada?
Yeah, I think it's like I'm very fortunate to like not only be living in Canada, but to also like have private insurance through my parents and university, and be have a lot of redundancy in my insurance coverage. But it's been a bit stressful now, as it's like, okay, well, when I like age out of my parents' insurance, kind of what happens, and thinking like, okay, well, I'm covered under my mom's insurance, like as a disabled dependent or whatever, but then she can't retire. And then,
Right.
like, so it's all this thing where now it's like, okay, I'm looking into master's programs so that maybe I can get a good job in the government and have like good government benefits then, because
Yeah.
it's very stressful that way. And I could have just like go off and do whatever I wanted. It's okay. Yeah, like I'm picking the master's program based on the insurance that the school offers and going from there. So I'm very fortunate, but there's definitely a lot of out-of-pocket costs.
I agree with you. When I was injured, I was working for a pharmaceutical company, and they had Canada Life insurance. And so they were honestly really good to me, and they covered the time that I took off work and different expenses, and they covered some adaptations to my home and like really helped us to get back on our feet. But I think that experience is potentially unique. Like if I hadn't been working at the time, which isn't that crazy, then I wouldn't have had those resources, and it would have been just this insane expense I was 25. And so 25 is kind of that age where you have some money, but not really enough. Like the things that you would need you're kind of surviving off your income day to day, more so than, thinking about going into your savings to adapt your home for disability. So it's complicated. I think there definitely is a need. Other things that stood out to you is like things that you or your family had to buy? Like, did you buy your own wheelchair, or is there certain things that you're like, this was something that we just had to figure out ourselves?
Yeah, so like thankfully my wheelchair was covered, and so that was like very, very thankful for that, like with Smart Drive and everything. But then like I was living at a 2-story house. We had to move, like renovate, make things accessible. Obviously that wasn't covered. And then to like for my independence, like I was driving before, driving again, and the car modifications and the driving lessons, and all of that. So like again, thankfully there are grants. Like I think I got through like March of Dimes for driving, but just the things that aren't basic, like, okay, sure, I can get by if I live in my house and don't go out.
Yeah, but being able to drive is not such an excessive thing to expect.
Independence and just like being at the same level as, other people my age is something that there's so many added expenses.
Yeah. It's definitely intense, and you have to, like you said, like kind of find March of Dimes or find all of these different places and resources to kind of put things together. And it's a lot more additional stress than what you would otherwise be dealing with at 22. Like you're so young. It made me feel old, but in a nice way. So what's next for you? You're studying nutrition in undergrad, and then...
Yeah, so I have a 7-week internship left, and then I'll graduate.
Oh my gosh, you're so close.
So close.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I'm really looking forward to that, and I'll be able to like take the national exam and become a registered dietitian, which I'm really excited for, and would like to maybe start working casual and just kind of see where that goes. But I spent my winter break applying to a bunch of master's programs, like some in public health and then some in sport management. So
I was going to ask that if you wanted to work in sport, would that be appealing to you to like be support for like a national team or athletes in general?
Yeah, absolutely. Like aside from me being an athlete, I'm like a huge sports fan. Like
I love it.
Especially like we have a PWHL team in Ottawa and we're getting a new like an NSL like women's soccer league team here. And I'm a huge women's soccer fan. So I think like just like fangirling over those things, I'm like, maybe I could get a foot in the door and work in those environments. I'd have such a blast.
As an athlete, I would find it so cool and so helpful if my support had that experience. I think it really helps you just to kind of understand like where a person's coming from, to have lived it and to have like been through that whole experience. I think that's really gives a good background so that you can be on the same page as opposed to being like, you know, I work in an office all day and I'm telling you, you should do something like this. And you're like, okay, but how am I going to bring that with me on the bike? Like it doesn't make sense. I think that's so cool. So in terms of fencing, just to kind of get back to your sport, when you compete, do you find that your competitors have similar impairments to you, or is it quite different? Like, how do you line up in comparison to them? Because it seems like in triathlon, it's kind of become really similar impairments in my portion of the sport anyway. And so like a lot of us, obviously I compete against women, but we all have similar levels of spinal cord injury and honestly somewhat similar stories even. Like you sort of end up kind of being similar, but it seems like maybe fencing is a bit more diverse. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, so I'd say in fencing, like to simplify it, there's like category A and B. I'd say A is a lot more diverse because the fencing categories are also numbered like 1, 2, 3, 4. And so A is like 3 and 4 and B is just 2. So A is a bit more diverse where you'll have like amputees, CP, like very low level spinal cord injuries, but essentially like you still have trunk function and great with that. My category B is essentially like no trunk function. And so it's a lot more similar, like pretty much across the board, everyone is a full-time wheelchair user, maybe like one person, like with CP who's not, but like for me, it's kind of interesting because like I don't have a spinal cord injury like per se. So I'm not like, I don't have any hardware in my back. Like, I'm not fused anywhere. So I'm like so flexible, which is such an advantage compared to like lots of my opponents who, again, like don't have that flexibility or range of motion. So there's still like some differences in function and, I don't want to say ways to like exploit other people's weaknesses, but again, like it's
sport too. Like if someone is not strong on their left foot, you force them onto their left foot. Like I understand what you're saying, but I think it's strategic. It's not the kind of savage that you're worried at that it sounds like.
So like I would have weaknesses that someone else in my category would have strengths in and vice versa. So there is still
You've learned this about them.
Yeah, like in that bit of diversity where it's not like a homogenous pool where I'm fencing this person, the next person I fence, it's going to be the exact same, like
use type different of strategies,
same movements, etc.
Cool.
So it's pretty different that way.
Yeah, that's super interesting. That's cool. And then in fencing, like when you have a match, are you and your coach, like, is it like you kind of do this move and it's pre-planned, or like, do you know what I mean? Like, is there some sort of almost like choreography to it, or decision making before, or are you just on the spot? Like, if they do this, I'm going to make up what I'm going to do. Like, how is the play-by-play kind of decided?
Few parts to this answer. So for me, honestly, like being so new at fencing, I do not understand what's going on. Like my coach will be like, do what you just did. I'm like, I don't know what I just did. Like, I just did it.
Reacted.
Like, like we'll be watching other people and, oh, you see how that person did that? I'm like, no, like what? So I have no clue what's going on. So that's part A. Part B, each weapon is kind of different. So for Saber, it's like literally a full match to 15 hits would last like 3 seconds total on the clock of stop time. Like I'd say
crazy.
it's like a second and a half of exertion. It is nothing. Like, I'm like, this is such an easy sport. No offense to any fencers here listening. It is a mental sport.
Like technical, but it's challenging in a different way. Yeah. So you're not like huffing and puffing.
Yeah. So for saber, I'd say, especially it not being one that like I train in, really me going into like a competition in saber, my coach is like, here are your 3 moves and make a decision. And, you know, when they say alley, like choose one of them and, you know, commit to it. So for that, it's like fairly straightforward where, you know, there's kind of like one action and then, you know, the clock stops and that's it. But for épée, where it could take like 9 minutes to get 5 points, and it's a lot more of that like strenuous endurance-y bit that I prefer. It's a lot more like improv-y, at least for me, I'd say, where
you can't get like 9 minutes choreographed.
Yeah, like I'll try to do things to like, you know, set my opponent up so that, you know, I'll do this so that they do that and then I can do this. But other than that, it's a lot of like, we'll just see what happens. So,
it seems like it's like half sport athleticism and half like chess almost, like just, you know, like choosing moves and like planning your strategy.
Yeah, it's like I'll say like a lot of visualization and like working with mental performance. And even my coach is like, oh, like, you know, before Worlds, there's always athletes who like don't fence for 3 months, but they just like purely do visualization if they have an injury or whatever, and then they go on to win the whole thing. So it's really unique that way, I find.
A lot of mental work, a lot of like sort of different approach to sport than what people imagine like as training. That's so cool. That's awesome. It sounds like such a cool sport. I've tried it once, but I did like an introductory lesson, and I don't know if I'm like the right person for it because I did it with a friend, and when they were trying to teach us, they were like, you're supposed to hit them fast and not hard, and I was like, I don't know how to go fast and not hard. Like, I don't know what the difference is. And I feel like that was like the hill that I was going to die on, that they were like, stop whacking her. And I was like, I'm not trying to, but I'm trying to go fast, and it just results in like hard. So I don't know if it's for me. I don't really get it.
No, that's me too, especially in saber.
I'm like the move, right?
Yeah, I'm like winding up, have my like saber like behind my head, chopped down, and everyone's like, "Hey, no, I've gotten like stopped in a match for like being too violent and aggressive and hitting too hard." And
okay, it makes me feel better to not be the only one, because I was like, I had taken my friend to this, and now I'm like, I think she thinks I'm nuts that I wanted to like bring her here to like hit her with this thing. Like, I'm not trying to do that. It's a fighting sport. I don't know. Maybe fighting sports are probably not for me. It's probably not my strength. I think that I would be like the one who would be like a little too aggressive and then also would cry. Like, if someone hit me really hard, I would be like, no, I'm done.
Like, you can't take it. You'll dish it out, but you're like, no.
Not for me. A friend of mine plays sledge hockey, and she's always getting me to try. And I'm like, if someone hit me, like, that would just be the end. Like, I couldn't take it. I would be like, nah, I'm going home.
Yeah.
Not for me. Well, this was really fun. It's so nice getting to know you a little bit better. It was lovely to meet you at the games. My parents honestly ask me about you all the time because you met them there, and they become like fans of people that they meet in parasport. They're like kind of obsessed. And so they like frequently are like, how's this person? How's this person? And I'm like, Mom. And then they like follow, this is probably creepy, but they like follow everyone on like social media, and then they like tell me things about what people are doing. And I'm like, okay, I love it, but okay. So they were thrilled to meet you. They thought you were wonderful. And I and them and my whole team was super excited with your performance and excited to see where you go in fencing and just in life in general. I think it's going to be very cool to maybe see you as my sport dietitian one day. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see.
Thank you so much for being here and for doing this, for chatting with me. If people want to find you or support you or follow you in sport or anywhere else, where can they do that? Do you have social media channels that you like to share?
Yeah, the best way would be my Instagram, Lowthian_can, for fencing-esque life updates.
Perfect. Well, we'll stay tuned to your Instagram for fencing life updates. Good luck in Brazil. I hope you have a great time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to More Than Medals. That was the story of Trinity Lowthian. I hope you guys continue to follow along with Trinity's story, as well as the incredible stories of the other Canadian and not Canadian para athletes that we share on More Than Medals.